Hello sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 10 college football predictions. So last week, I had a record of 14-0, and that brings my record on the season to 139-25. Kicking things off this week with the one game we have on Friday, and that is San Diego State at Boise State. So Boise State is coming off a big win over UNLV, and then I'll face a San Diego State team that's decent at 3-4. But Boise State, they're great offensively, led by Heisman contending running back Ashton Jeanty. As Boise State is scoring 44.3 points per game and rushing for 274 yards per game. Now, San Diego State is a solid defensive team, allowing about 23 points a game, but they're not great against the run, allowing over 160 rushing yards per game, so I think Ashton Jeanty is going to have another big game. Now, for San Diego State offensively, they're not good. They're scoring just 22 points per game, and they will not be able to keep up with Boise State. So Boise State keeps winning, and they win this game pretty easily by a score of 38-10. And moving to the rest of the games, all on Saturday, beginning with Ohio State at Penn State. So this is a huge matchup. We have two top 5 teams. Ohio State is 6-1, Penn State is 7-0. Penn State could be without starting quarterback Drew Allar for this game, as he's dealing with a knee injury and is a game time decision. But I'm not a big Drew Allar fan at all, and I really don't think he's that good, so I don't think this makes a huge difference for the Penn State offense. But Penn State is scoring 33.3 points per game, and they win on the run offensively, rushing for 197 yards per game and 5.1 yards per carry. But they now face a good Ohio State defense that's allowing just 11.9 points per game, and it's good against the run, allowing just 91 rushing yards per game and 2.8 yards per carry. Then on the flip side, Ohio State is scoring 40.3 points per game, and they have a much more balanced attack, passing for 280 yards per game and rushing for 188 yards per game. But they now face a good Penn State defense that is good against both the run and the pass, and is allowing just 14.3 points on the season. But this is a game that could go either way. Ohio State has won 7 straight games against Penn State, and I think they make it 8 in a row. Going to Penn State is never easy, but I think Ohio State and their defense will be able to contain the Penn State run game, and Penn State doesn't have a very good pass game with or without Drew Allar, and I think Will Howard will do enough with what he can do with his legs, and he'll make a big difference as he also has 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. And I have Ohio State beating Penn State and winning by a score of 21-10. And this is the same story every year for Penn State. They start the year undefeated, playing a bunch of bad teams, get ranked inside the top 10, and then they lose when they actually play a good team like Ohio State. Same thing again this year, Ohio State beats Penn State 21-10. Up next, we have Duke at Miami. So Duke is a solid team as they're 6-2, but they're coming off an overtime loss to SMU. They now face a good Miami team with a great offense, as Miami is scoring 46.8 points per game and averaging 560 yards per game. But they now face a good Duke defense that is the second best scoring defense in the ACC, allowing 18.6 points per game. But I don't think stopping the elite Miami offense will be an easy task for Duke. On the other side, Duke is scoring just 26 points a game, and they're facing a Hurricanes defense allowing 21 points per game. But Duke needs to play a flawless game defensively if they want their offense to be able to keep up with Miami. But I just don't think Duke can, 1, contain Miami for the entire game, and 2, keep up with them. So I've got Miami winning this game and remaining undefeated. Cam Moore, the Miami offense, played pretty well, and Miami wins by a score of 35-20. Up next, we have Ole Miss at Arkansas. So Ole Miss has not been playing that well as of late, as they've lost 2 of their last 4. And this is supposed to be a great Ole Miss offense, but they haven't even hit 30 points in any of those 4 games. But Ole Miss now faces an Arkansas team that's pretty solid, sitting at 5-3. But Ole Miss needs their offense to get going again. They're still scoring 39.5 points per game on the season, but they need to actually score 30 points in a game. They don't face an Arkansas defense that is allowing 21.8 points per game. And then for Arkansas offensively, they're scoring 33.3 points a game, but they face a great Ole Miss defense that is actually the best scoring defense in the country, allowing 11 points per game. But even if Ole Miss struggles again offensively, their defense is good enough for them to get the win here. I do think the offense at least hits 30 points for Ole Miss, and I've got them winning this one by a score of 34-14. Moving on, we have Army hosting Air Force. So here we have a game between 2 triple option teams, and Army, they've been great this season, as they're currently undefeated, sitting at 7-0, and they now face an Air Force team that has struggled at just 1-6. Their only win came against an FCS team, and they've lost 6 straight games. Army is great offensively, as they rush for 359 yards per game, and are scoring a little over 40 points a game. They now face an Air Force defense allowing nearly 200 rushing yards a game and 27 points a game. Then offensively for Air Force, they've really struggled this season, averaging just 15.3 points per game, and despite being a triple option team, they're not even averaging 200 rushing yards per game. But they now face an Army defense that is great, allowing just 12 points per game and 80 rushing yards per game. The Army is the better team here. I think their offense will find success. Their defense will find a lot of success against the bad Air Force offense, and Army wins easily by a score of 38-7. Up next, we have Illinois hosting Minnesota. So these are two solid Big Ten teams, as Minnesota is 5-3 and Illinois is 6-2. These are also your classic Big Ten teams leaning on their defense. But offensively for each team, they're both solid. Illinois is scoring 27 points a game, and Minnesota is scoring 27.9 points per game. But then on the defensive side of the ball, Minnesota is a little bit better, allowing 16.8 points per game compared to Illinois' 20.6. Now, the Illinois defense isn't the greatest against the run, allowing over 150 rushing yards per game, but I don't really think Minnesota has the offense to really run the football, as they're averaging just 108 rushing yards per game. But this is a game that could really go either way. I really have no idea who's going to win here. Illinois is at home, so I'm going to take them, but I really have no idea who wins. I've got Illinois 24-20. Moving on, we have Oregon at Michigan. So Michigan has not been that good this season, as they're just 5-3. Their offense is terrible, scoring 21 points per game, although the run game is pretty good, rushing for 172 yards per game. Now, I could see the Michigan offense finding success on the ground against an Oregon defense that is good, but isn't the greatest against the run, as Oregon is allowing 15.6 points per game and 123 rushing yards per game. Now, offensively for Oregon, they're scoring 35 points per game and passing for 300 yards a game, and they match up against a Michigan defense that's allowing 228 passing yards per game and 21.5 points per game. But I have Oregon winning this game. I think this could be a close game. Michigan's a pretty solid defensive team, plus they're home, but Oregon's offense is just way too good, and I've got Oregon winning by a score of 34-17. Moving on, we have Florida against Georgia in Jacksonville. So this is Georgia's first game since they beat Texas a couple weeks ago, and they don't face a Florida team that isn't the greatest, sitting at 4-3. Although Florida, they are coming off a 48-20 win over Kentucky, so maybe they can carry that into this week's meeting. Florida is starting former 5-star quarterback DJ Lagway at quarterback after Graham Mertz tore his ACL a few weeks ago. But Florida, they're scoring 31 points per game, and they don't face a good Georgia defense, allowing under 17 points a game. Now, the defense for Florida isn't the greatest, as they're allowing 23 points a game, and they don't have to try to stop a Georgia offense that's scoring 33 points a game. Georgia hasn't really ran the ball that well this season, averaging just 130 rushing yards per game, but I think there's a chance they can finally get the run game going, as they face a pretty bad Florida run defense. But I have Georgia winning this game. They're the better team on both sides of the ball, and I have Georgia winning this game by a score of 33-20. Up next, we have Texas Tech at Iowa State. So here we have an interesting matchup, as Texas Tech is a solid team sitting at 5-3, and they have a great offense scoring 38.1 points per game. But they don't have to face a really good Iowa State defense that's allowing only 14.4 points per game. Now, while the offense is good for Texas Tech, their defense is awful, as they're allowing 36 points per game. And they face an Iowa State offense that isn't anything too impressive, but they're solid, scoring 31 points a game. But I do think the Iowa State offense will have a big game against just a terrible defense. But it's interesting to see a good offense against a good defense, but I do have Iowa State winning this game fairly easily. I just can't see Texas Tech winning this game with how bad their defense is, and I have Iowa State winning this game, remaining undefeated, winning by a score of 41-24. Moving on, we have Kansas State at Houston. So Kansas State is coming off a narrow victory over their rival Kansas, and they now face a Houston team that is not good. Houston's offense is terrible, scoring just 14 points per game, and is actually the worst scoring offense in the country. Now, on top of their offense being awful, they face a Kansas State defense that's pretty good, allowing 21 points a game. The Houston defense is solid, allowing only 22.4 points a game, but they face a good Kansas State offense that's scoring 33 points a game. I think the Houston defense can keep this game close for a while, but with how bad their offense is, they won't score nearly enough to get the win. Kansas State pulls away in the second half and wins by a score of 30-6. Moving on, we have Indiana at Michigan State. So Indiana's been great so far this year as they're 8-0, although they haven't really played anybody. But Indiana, they're great offensively, scoring 46.5 points per game, and they could be getting starting quarterback Curtis Rourke back from injury, and that could make their offense even better. but they face a Michigan State defense that is solid, allowing 21 points per game. Now, while the Michigan State defense is good, their offense isn't that good, as they're only putting up 21 points a game. On top of already not scoring much, they now have to face a good Indiana defense that's allowing 14 points per game. But Indiana, they're the much better team on both sides of the ball. I think their offense plays well even against a good defense, and the defense shuts down an already not great offense. Indiana wins pretty easily by a score of 34-13. Up next, we have Texas A&M at South Carolina. So Texas A&M is coming off a big win over LSU, and they need to avoid a letdown game. Now, Texas A&M has a decision to make at the quarterback position, because they can either start Connor Wegman, who's been their starting quarterback throughout the entire season, but got benched midway through last week's game, or they can start dual-threat quarterback Marcel Reed, who's been great in his limited playing time. But Texas A&M is good offensively, scoring 32.3 points per game, and they've leaned on the ground game, rushing for 221 yards per game. Now, the South Carolina defense is pretty good, allowing 18.7 points a game, and just 101 rushing yards per game. Then on the other side, South Carolina is also a run-first offense, rushing for 160 yards per game, and scoring 28.6 points per game. But they now face a Texas A&M defense that is also really good, allowing just 18.4 points per game and 101 rushing yards per game. But I think this is going to be a lower scoring defensive game, but I'm going to take Texas A&M to get the win. I think their defense is better, and I think they're going to have the edge at the quarterback position with either Wegman's ability as a passer, as long as he doesn't get benched again, or Marcel Reed's ability as a runner. But I am going to take Texas A&M to get the win in a low-scoring game, 23-17, but I would not be shocked to see an upset. Moving on, we have Louisville at Clemson. So this is an interesting game. Clemson, they've been playing really well as of late, winning 6 straight, and their offense is good, scoring 42 points per game. Now for Louisville, they started off strong, but have lost 3 of their last 5. And the 2 games they didn't lose, they won by 4 points. But both teams are good offensively. Clemson, as I said a second ago, is scoring 42 points per game, and Louisville is scoring 36.6 points per game. Then as far as defenses go, Clemson is allowing 23 points per game, while Louisville is allowing 24.6 points a game. But while both defenses are decent, I do expect both offenses to play well, and this to be a higher scoring game. But I'm going to take Clemson to get the win here. Their offense is playing extremely well. They have a good mix between the run and the pass, and I've got Clemson winning this game in a high scoring game, 38-34. Moving on, we have Kentucky at Tennessee. So this is the first game for Kentucky since they beat Alabama a couple weeks ago, but they now face a pretty bad Tennessee team that's just 3-5. Tennessee has a terrible offense that is the worst scoring offense in the SEC, scoring just 19 points per game. But they now face a good Tennessee defense, which ranks 3rd in the country, allowing just 11.6 points per game. Then offensively for Tennessee, they haven't been the greatest, as they've gone 4 straight games without hitting 30 points, but I don't think the offense will have to do a ton, as with the combination of how good the Tennessee defense is and how bad the Kentucky offense is, I don't really think Tennessee needs to do much offensively. I do think Tennessee will have a pretty good offensive game, though. They'll finally get back to hitting 30 points, and Tennessee wins by a score of 31-6. And our final game, we have Pitt at SMU. So this is a huge ACC matchup, as both these teams are unbeaten in conference play, and also very good, as Pitt is 7-0, and SMU is 7-1. But both these teams are really good teams. Pitt is scoring 40.9 points per game, and SMU is scoring 39.1 points per game. But while both teams have elite offenses, both teams are also dealing with injuries at the quarterback position. As Pitt quarterback Eli Holstein has been cleared to play, and SMU quarterback Kevin Jennings is dealing with a knee injury, but he is expected to try to play. But even if Jennings can't play, SMU has a more than capable backup with Preston Stone, who was the team's starting quarterback last season when they were also really good. Now, defensively, these teams are also very alike, as Pitt is allowing 22 points a game, and SMU allowing 21.4 points a game. But this is an extremely tough game to predict with how similar both these teams are. This is going to be a higher scoring game, as both these teams' offenses are very good, but this is a true coin flip for me. SMU is home, and I'm going to take them to get the win, but this has been one of the hardest games for me to predict all season long, but I've got SMU winning in a great game, 37-31. But those are my Week 10 college football predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications so you don't miss any other upcoming videos I do my best to put as often as possible. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to put as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.